I'm Kathy Adams Clark and welcome back. Now I'm going to show you how to process multiple photos in Adobe Camera Raw. The beauty of using Camera Raw is that I can process multiple photos at one time, and they don't have to be of the same thing, but in this case I'm going to pull up two photos that look very similar. The only difference between them is a horizontal and a vertical, and I'm going to process these at the same time in Adobe Camera Raw. And so I'm going to double click on the photos. Remember, if you're using JPEGs, simply click on Open in Camera Raw and you can do it that way. Otherwise, if you're using RAWs, just select the multiple photos that you want to process and then double click. And when you do that, Adobe Camera Raw is going to open up. But we have something new that we didn't see in the previous lesson in Adobe Camera Raw, and that's a film strip over here. So in that film strip, we can process both these photos at exactly the same time and then go back to the individual photographs and lightly tweak the individual photographs. So for me, when I process, I do a select all. I clarify by about 40. I vibrance by about 10, somewhere around in there. I saturate by about 10. And it can be a little bit over. If you notice, I just clicked and I got it just a slight bit over. And now I have clarified, vibranced, and saturated both of those photos at the exact same time. Now I'm going to go back up and take this individual photo and I'm going to work on it. The first thing I've got to do is I've got to pay attention to this big, huge white highlight that's blown out right there in the center of that photograph. That's the tiny little spike over here on my histogram. It's trying to warn me something's wrong. And so with that, I'm going to take my exposure slider and move it down just a hair, and you notice not much is happening. So then I'm going to take my highlights and I'm going to move those down, and there you notice that something finally started happening. But you see how far I had to move that slider? By moving that slider that far, I have really cut into that portion of the photograph. And so for me, that might be a decision that I make or don't make based on how much I've cut into that photograph. But that street light is going to end up being fairly bright on that photograph no matter what. There's not much I can do to get rid of that. I can get rid of the blocked out shadows down here in that dark area along the creak of the photograph, and I do that by simply moving my black. So I've used my exposure slider to get rid of the spike on the right side of my histogram. I've used my black slider to get rid of the spike on the left side of my histogram. And now everything else I do in here is solely based on my personal preferences. So that's a pretty good photograph for me right now. I'm going to go ahead and go into the second photograph and see how I like it. But I can also do something that's pretty interesting. I can click on that first photograph and then click on the second photograph and click the Synchronize button. You notice that the Synchronize button came up when I clicked on that second photograph. And by clicking on that Synchronize button and choosing which things I would like to do to the first picture, just like to the second picture, just like I did to the first picture, then I can simply go and click on OK right there. So now this photograph has the exact same changes made. And I can come in and I can look at them and see whether they're warranted in this photograph. So in this one, I might move this black back just a hair because it turns out not to be as necessary as it was in that previous photograph. And then with this photograph, I'm going to take my highlight slider and put it back, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do exactly the same thing with that one. So if I wanted to, I could click on both of these photographs at the same time, and I could click contrast to add contrast to both of them. And then I can go into each one individually and see how it turned out and see what it looked like. The nice thing about Camera Raw and Adobe Photoshop is that I can go in and work on all the photographs that I took at the same time and give each one of them their individual attention, but I can still work on them at the same time, and it makes processing photos a whole lot faster. The buildings in this photo are not leaning too bad. The building in this photo seems to be leaning just a little bit. So I'm going to take that straighten tool once again, and I'm going to take it down the side of this building and pull it down just like that. There you go. And that straightened that building out. So we've got lots more tools back in here that we haven't used yet, but that comes in future lessons. Thanks for joining me. I'm Kathy Adams Clark. I'm going to click on this Done, and that takes us right back into Adobe Photoshop Bridge. Come back and join me for some more lessons, see what we do to the rest of these photographs, and see how we can use batch processing to make our workflow go a lot faster in Adobe Bridge CS6. Thanks.